Hi everybody, my name is Ross the Alcheminiaturist, and this is a fleshbot of the Corpse Grinder Cult. Now, something like that needs no introduction, but I feel like you might want one. Too bad. Before I go too much into this build, I just want to make a quick list of the items that I used for this model. They are Mollog, from Warhammer Underworlds warband Mollogs Mob, Necromunda Ambot legs, hands, and head, an ogre glutton standard bearer arm pole, Cork, a 40mm base, and greenstuff. Okay, now that I have that out of the way, I want to talk about why I'm doing an Ambot, that I'm calling a Fleshbot, for the Corpse Grinder Cult. As I can hear some of you go, "But Alk, didn't you just say that you're doing Malstrain? What's with this shift?" Well, that's pretty easy, to be honest. And there's a simple answer and a much longer answer. So the simple answer is, I like to have two armies or warbands or decks or whatever on hand if and when one of my friends wants to learn or play. But honestly, it goes deeper than that. I mean, what good or fun is it when you have a friend that goes, "Hey, I'd like to learn this. Can you teach me?" And you have to say, "Well, no. You have to get your own models, invest a lot of time and money into something that you don't even know if you want to play past the first game here with me." For me, that's pretty embarrassing, and you'll probably turn that person off from trying it. I know that I have not tried many a hobby due to the introductory price point being higher than I was willing to pay for a couple hours of time. So why would I do that to my friends and family? Well, personally, I wouldn't, and don't. That's why I have two of everything that I play/participate in, so I can be accommodating to new players. The other part is, I really like to build, convert, and paint models, if you haven't already noticed. And I can't keep myself on one path or idea or faction for very long. Plus, every army has a different aesthetic and vibe and lore that you have to take into consideration to make a conversion or a custom model. Take, for example, the Corpse Grinder Cult. They're a splinter faction from a larger guild called the Corpse Guild, whose job it is to process the dead of a hive world's inhabitants into foodstuff known as corpse starch. Sometimes, while watching the bodies get mulched and ground into a paste, and then turned into the very food that so many Necromunda denizens eat, the workers go mad. During this madness, they find that flesh, not corpse starch, is actually pretty good. And the fresher, the better. And so they are driven to kill and consume other people. While they are in this insanity, they turn to a god known only as the Lord of Meat, who helps them channel their cannibalistic tendencies. As more and more people are initiated into the cult, and its influence grows, they start to plan on rising from the shadows. Once their leader, known as a Harvest Lord, determines it's time to rise up, they rise up, with numbers in the thousands. Hey, hold on. I think that sounds like somebody else that we know. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm running a cult in the 41st millennium, I'm going to want some sort of machine or machines help me achieve my goals. Enter the Fleshbot, a repurposed Ambot with its sole purpose to lure unsuspecting humans to their deaths, either by traps, ambushes, or by its own mechanical hands. The Fleshbot is designed to make the average hiver think that they are with an aging ogre due to its size and hunchness, especially when they see it more in the dark than in the light. I wanted to have the Fleshbot feel a bit like Uncanny Valley meets Skinwalker with a splash of unfeeling malice, which is why I kept most of the troll body intact. Seeing as the Fleshbot is/would be an amalgamation of flesh, machine, and probably some unholy magic, courtesy of the Lord of Meat, I'd like to imagine that the Corpse Grinder Cult would have this machine and make sure it had a voice that sounded as human as it possibly could. Wait a second. I don't have to imagine. I can just decide it. I could just say, the Fleshbot, to add to its feeling of uncanniness, has the voice of a human as well. He calls to humans from the shadows and beyond, beckoning them to follow him, as he needs help with someone who's injured, just slightly beyond the way. As the victims get closer and closer, they notice that his silhouette doesn't seem to stay the same shape of someone humanoid. Instead, they see his bulky, misshapen mass. By this time, they are too late. At least one of them is too close to escape properly, either being subdued from the rod or grabbed and crushed by his unfeeling hands. As unfeeling and cold and calculating as the Fleshbot is, it does seem to hint that it takes pleasure in its task, bringing the still warm bodies down to the hidden rooms of the Corpse Grinder Cult it serves. That sounds good, doesn't it? That sounds real good. Well, with the lore and the build done, and the glue dry, it's time to start painting. As per usual on this channel, I started with Vallejo's black primer shot through the airbrush to cover it in a dark color to then build up upon. I then got my Vallejo medium sea gray and dry brushed it all over the model, trying to keep the deep recesses black still while lightening up the rest of the model. After that, I grabbed the Vallejo Dead White and, again, dry brushed it over most of the model. This time, since I wanted to create shadows as organically as I could, I only focused on the most raised areas, the ones that would be gaining the most light and therefore would be the lightest part of the models. Next, I took my Citadel Air Kislev flesh to start painting the flesh. I wanted to create a feeling that the skin was from more than one person. However, I didn't really like the way that this paint moved and covered the base, so I ended up just painting over it with Citadel Rakarth flesh. And Citadel Rakarth flesh is, in my opinion, the best flesh paint that I have found to paint flesh and skin with. It flows nicely, takes dilution well, and overall just is a nice paint to be around. It's the kind of paint that you don't mind meeting your parents on Sunday for brunch after church. For the metal, and there is a lot of metal on this model, Citadel's leadveltcher was used. Everything metal got the leadveltcher treatment. The face, arms, chainsaw forearm, legs, everything. I honestly have yet to find a better base metal color to use. If you know of one, Let me know, I'd be interested to see what you use for your base metal color. Now, moving metal parts needs some way to make sure it feels like it does, and for Fleshbot here, that's with hoses full of probably hydraulic fluid. So those hoses got Pro Akryl's Bold Pyrrole Red on them. I also painted one of the eyes red as well, just to give them a little bit more of character. Next step was shading. For the flesh, I chose to use Citadel's shade Carrroburg Crimson, because I wanted the skin strips to look more gross and semi-visceral when you looked at them. It definitely will be the first part of the model that you see, so why not make it stand out in every way it can. All of the metal got shaded with Citadel's Nuln oil, as I wanted to show some level of use, and Nuln oil does just that. Everything looks like it's just been used and oiled and is ready to keep going. Once the shades and contrast paint were dried, I then washed all of the metal parts with Scale 75's Oilworks Rust Wash. It really dulls down the metallic shine that Nuln oil gives, and you can make it streak like rust was dripping or flowing across this metal. Once I was satisfied with the way that the model looked like, I took Vallejo's Diorama Effects brown mud and slip-slathered it all over the front of the base to give it texture, and, as I figured, the Hive City wouldn't be all metal platforms, and thus it gives a little bit more grounded and underground feeling to the Fleshbot. Once the mud was dried, I added a couple of tufts of bright green alien toxic gamer's grass to pop a little bit more color into it. And with that, the model was done. Thank you so much for watching this. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, as it helps the channel grow and gives me an idea of the sort of things that you like to see. I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.